So last week, we obviously had a little bit of a technical difficulty. I know nobody picked up on it at home because we made such awesome fake beer opening noises.
Oh, yes.
But we weren't actually opening those beers.
I was like, what are you talking about? Yeah, we that was all just our mouths, if you can believe
it or not.
Yeah.
Because I actually brought bottles, so we
Yes.
had to fake the opening of cans.
Yeah, we had to fake that. And bottles kind of make a sound, but it's not really strong.
And I just didn't like sitting there drinking out of the bottle, So
Yeah.
I got something to fix that.
Oh boy. Oh my gosh.
Here you go.
Oh my gosh. What? This is awesome. Oh, Jeff just gave me like a beer stein or beer mug that has our logo on it. This is so cool. Thanks, man.
Now we got the perfect
Oh
vessel.
my gosh. Okay. Well, now I'm going to pour this in here. Wow, this is so cool. Wow, maybe one day we'll sell this to you guys.
Yeah.
If we have any listeners ever. Man, thanks, dude. This is awesome. Now we'll have to have these. Well, we'll just have to have these. Perfect.
See how they work.
Yeah. I think they're going to work like a mug. It's gonna be great. Welcome to episode 6 of the Arena Regulars podcast. I'm Zach.
And I'm Jeff.
And we are regulars on MTG Arena.
Sure are.
Yeah, and we drink beer out of mugs now.
Yes.
I guess. Yeah.
Huge upgrade.
I guess we can cheers with this.
Cheers.
I guess we haven't really cheersed a lot in the
Yeah.
show. I saw you went for it. Usually I do a little table tap, but with the microphones, we try not to do that.
Exactly.
Anyway, we got a great show for you today. We are going to kind of go over the November State of the Game, which just came out, an important document that everyone should read. And we're going to read it to you. And then
Basically.
And then we're doing first impressions of Kaladesh Remastered. And then we have some historic deck lists for you. So yeah. But like we were kind of alluding to before, each week we both bring a beer. We drink our own beer, then drink each other's, and then we rate them on a scale of bronze to mythic. And then we choose the best beer for last. So with that, Jeff, what have you brought today?
I brought a beer called Spirit Wolf. Yeah, this is a local brewery, and it's called Sons of Kent, and it's a coffee blonde.
Interesting.
So I don't know what to expect. I don't know if you've ever had a blonde stout before, but it really messes with your mind because it tastes like a stout, but it looks like a golden ale.
It's definitely gold.
Yeah.
I was thinking it would at least have some sort of brownish tint because coffee, but it looks okay.
So I thought this was perfect for the mugs because
Oh.
out of the can, it just tastes like a stout.
Oh, okay.
But
That
once
makes
you
sense.
see that it doesn't look like a stout,
Yeah.
it messes with your mind, man.
Man, crazy.
And it's 5.1%. What did you bring?
All right. I brought from Royal City Brewing Company a smoked honey beer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And yours is dark. Yours
Mine-
is the color my coffee beer should be, and
Yes.
mine is the color your honey beer should be.
exactly. It's very I mean, I would kind of expect some sort of dark
True.
brown for a smoked something. But yeah, it's definitely much lighter. It's like a brown ale.
Brown.
A brown ale? I've read that somewhere, but it's definitely not on this can anymore. So maybe that was just me hallucinating.
Maybe it's just when you poured it into that fancy mug.
I was like,
you
oh,
saw
this
that
is
color.
brown.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, it's pretty good. It's 5.5%. I actually had a lot of honey beers when I was in Estonia last year. So this kind of reminds me a little bit of those. They're kind of
Awesome.
running rampant.
That sounds like I might like it there.
Yeah, it's it's just really good bread and good beer. So,
I like those things.
if you ever go, they also have Russian magic cards.
How's their internet connection for MTG Arena?
I think it was fine. I was in a hotel.
Great.
That seemed good. So, whatever. But magic news this week.
Yeah, and
So-
before we get to it, I think
Yes.
you owe someone an apology.
I do. So, guys, I know last week we were talking about our fantasy drafts, and I had picked Brad Nelson, and I may have been a little harsh.
a little.
I had just said that he only got 3 wins, and I thought that was not great, and he could have done better. But he could have done better.
And indeed may have.
And he may have and may in the future. What we found out actually is that part of that kind of score is that Brad's dog, Brad, I'm going to talk to you directly. Brad, your dog got sick, as you said, and you had to take it to the vet in an emergency. And that's a horrible situation. And I want to personally apologize for trash talking you for that, because that's bigger than Magic, and I don't want to open a door like that. So I hope your dog's all better and you get to do your other matches later. It won't help me win my fantasy league, but but I do retract all my statements about you from last week. So I apologize.
Way to kick a guy while he's down, man.
Yeah, I try not to do that, but I try not to do that.
But if their bad results are, purely Magic related,
Yes.
then the gloves are off.
Maybe I should just do more research.
I don't think that's the answer.
I don't
more
know about
beer
that.
is the answer.
Yeah, more beer and more apologies. Just like say things and then apologize later, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, Brad.
Okay, but how'd your arena week go?
It was good.
Good.
I got to play a lot of Kaladesh. And keep ranking up in historic. So that's been nice. I'm playing a lot of historic and just Kaladesh limited. But yeah, how about you?
Been doing a little of everything. I did some limited, I did some historic, and I did some standard. So
Nice.
just
All over the map.
yeah, just loving arena right now. Draft is always great. You can
Yeah.
always find a format that's going to be fun. Historic, it's really fun right now, and standard I think is really fun too. So
Yeah.
can't really go wrong.
Everything's fun.
Yeah.
Yay. Anyway, so we're getting into the November state of the game. Basically, if you're new to Arena, there's just like a monthly statement that WotC brings out, Wizard of the Coast writes, kind of explaining what they're doing or going to do and working on and what the future holds.
Yeah, it's usually pretty interesting because it sort of tells you what you can expect, and sometimes the state of the game just includes some stuff completely out of left field that we're only rumored to be working on.
Yeah, or like that's where they announced like Kaladesh Remastered, or when they're doing different products like that, or all the different festivals and things they'll talk about there. So it is important to read, and you will see a lot of people will post it up, but we just kind of like talking about it. But yeah, first of all, Kaladesh Remastered, it's here. It came out last Thursday. It's been super fun. Also, just randomly, if you didn't know, usually they give out like the basic lands for each of these sets and things. And I heard last time when they were redoing the
Amonkhet?
I think it was for Amonkhet or it was for Zendikar. I think they were just trying to give some lands away.
Okay.
The way that they did it is the reason why it kept crashing all the time. So they're trying this new version where all the basic lands are just in the store for 0 gems, and you just go buy them. And they I think it worked a lot better because there weren't as many delays this time around.
I'm not gonna lie, I visit the store every day to get it to stop bugging me, and in
Yes.
case there's free gems. And I didn't notice that those were free basic lands until I saw you put it in the show notes.
Oh, really?
So then I logged into my account and just 0
Yeah.
gems. I'll buy that.
Yeah, because I went and they also have more arts of old card frames for basic
Right.
lands. So now I'm just like looking at the store at basic lands now, like, do I need more basic lands? But if you didn't know, go get them. They're free. I mean, why not?
Yeah, so they released the APAC lands, the
Yes.
Asia Pacific, which are really cool.
They're super cool. So basically, Kaladesh, you can play 3 different ways right now. They have sealed and traditional draft, which end November 19th. So that's coming up really soon. But Premier Draft is going to go till the 18th of December, which is basically what we can expect for most of the stuff.
Yeah, sealed doesn't usually last very long with any.
Yeah, and it's usually fun once or twice. I definitely played it twice and I liked it. I mean, I do like sealed because I think I'm a little bit better at it than draft.
I actually like sealed a lot as well.
Yeah.
I just find maybe they've changed it, but in the old days, the payouts for sealed on Arena were like pretty rough. You had to
Really?
do really well to get your gems back.
You still have to do pretty well, but I think it's more on par with quick draft.
Okay.
So I think it's around like 5 you feel okay, 6 is like you got your money back and more, possibly. But you always get 3 packs back, so it is you just know you're gonna get 9 packs
Right.
when you go into it, so that's nice.
It's a good way to learn the format too.
Yes, and just be like, oh, let's just take these cards. I don't have to end up realizing I just picked a bunch of draft chaff and didn't know that.
Yeah, exactly.
They're
Like
also
maybe a card that you think can target creatures, but it can't.
okay. We'll talk about that later. I purposely left that out of the show notes.
Oh, I didn't forget.
Okay, well, we'll talk about that. But there's also going to be this draft challenge that's coming up next weekend. So something to work towards. But November 28th to the December 1st, it's a traditional draft. So that's best of 3. And basically, there are like huge payouts for this thing. It's supposed to be very competitive. I am very intimidated by this because it seems like, wow. I mean, it costs 3,000 gems or 15,000 gold to enter. But if you get 6 wins, you get 20,000 gold and 40 packs.
Wow.
Which is a lot.
Now, is this going to be Kaladesh draft?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, yes. Yeah, I believe so.
Very cool. So, whenever the Arena Open comes around, people always ask, why can't you make a competitive draft event? You know, we want competitive draft. And basically, the reason is that they tried to put draft and stuff into their Pro Tours and in the past.
Yeah.
And the viewership was always just way lower than Constructed.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think the reason is that it's cool to watch somebody draft and then watch them play a match, but then the rest of the time you're watching people play matches that you didn't watch their draft.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Whereas Constructed, you just jump in, you know what decks they're playing, and you just watch. With draft, you know, if you miss the draft portion, then you're just watching people play kind of bum magic decks.
I wonder if they could do like a red zone kind of thing where they go to the Octo box.
Yeah.
And you get to watch all 8 people draft at exactly the same time. And you can kind of see how the decks are filling out. Especially on Arena, it's more possible than in a paper format. You'd have to have cameras around everybody.
And actually, currently, they can't even just set up their own 8-person draft pod on Arena.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, you're right. Okay, so yes. Okay. I guess I'm thinking more in the future for like spectators, but I think an Octo box would be pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Because you can watch the pack move through and see how it's like, okay, well, this was this pack and is the, you know, the top corner or whatever, and it moves all the way around and you're watching everybody take different cards. And I guess with that, you'd really have to just cut out commentating, which they've been big on right now, but
there are just different channels and everyone has their own commentator.
Yeah, I guess you could just click on whichever box you want to hear, and maybe just have one person per.
I think if they did it right, it would be really popular.
It would be really cool.
Yeah.
And I think it would teach a lot of people. I feel like there's a lot of people who kind of shy away from draft because it feels intimidating.
Right.
Especially drafting against other people. So being able to watch pros do it would be really interesting. Just because we've also not really had that. You can watch one person draft, but you don't get to know what everybody else did. So
yeah, I seem to remember them having something on the website. It's like a draft viewer, so I could go in and see what pack they saw, what they took, and stuff like that. But it's not quite the same. You're not watching them.
Make the decisions and see their cursor go over stuff. And I think that'd be really interesting. Also, I don't know. This is just a random question, but can you see which cards you picked in what order? There's no way of like clicking a button.
I think you can kind of manually do that. But if you open in the view where your deck's on the bottom, and you're allowed to move stuff around
into you could go. So you have like
your own system,
like a 45 column thing.
Yeah.
Interesting. I think it would be fun if you could just click a button and it would just show you what you did, and you could review which cards you picked and realizing, oh well, I got 2 more of that card much farther down. I did not have to pick that so high. I think it would help teach people a lot better. It would help me for sure because I definitely need some help.
Also seems like a pretty easy feature to implement.
It seems fairly easy. So I think they should think about that. Hey, Wizards.
Yeah.
Could you do that, please? That'd be sweet.
Up. So I think this draft challenge is kind of their response to that. They're acknowledging that, I mean, the Arena Open, the constructed kind of version of this, they pay out real money.
Yeah.
So even though these prizes are huge, 20,000 gems and 40 packs is a lot.
It's a lot.
It's still not quite on the same level as the constructed events, but it's kind of them acknowledging, hey, we're hearing you. You want a competitive draft event.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Especially knowing that because we're doing Kaladesh, like those packs will be helpful because to smooth out your whole collection and everything.
I want to play in this.
Yeah. It intimidates me because you definitely get nothing for a loss. Or sorry, for 2 losses. So it's
if you just go 0-2.
Yeah, if you go 0-2, you get 0 things.
And then you're out 15,000 gold.
Or 3,000 gems, which I don't have 50,000 gold right now, so I don't know. I'll think about it.
Yeah, I guess it should be noted that the gold is the cheaper way to buy this.
Yes.
Is that true? because normally 10,000 is 1,500 gems. So, yeah, so
Yeah.
3,000 gems should be 20,000 gold.
Yeah.
Yep.
Also, I'd much rather convert gold to gold and not convert gold. But yeah,
Gold to
basically.
gems.
I don't want to pay gems and get gold back.
Right.
Because you are getting paid in gold as well. You're not getting paid in gems. So important
it was
distinction.
20,000 gold and 40 packs.
Yes.
I thought that was 20,000 gems.
No.
Holy cow, that's a big price.
No. 20,000 gold. So that is important to know that if you're paying in gems, you will get gold back.
Yeah. Okay. I'm definitely going to be saving up my
Yes.
gold.
So it's good to know now. Save up your gold if you're planning on doing this event, because you will probably have enough time by then to accrue enough. But keep it in the back of your mind. You were talking about the Arena Open, and we do know that the next one is December 12th, and it's going to be historic constructed. So we do get to talk about some historic today, so maybe you can get your brain churning on if you want to try that or not.
Yeah, and let's make sure that we don't that we save up gems and gold for this too.
Yes. So really map out what you're going to be doing.
Yeah, exactly.
So don't be like me and use all your gems before, and don't be like Jeff and don't sleep through day 2.
Yeah. I wish I could say it's not going to happen this time,
But you never know.
yeah, I'm not that confident. That'll be fun though, and by then, historic will have settled down a little bit. Right now, it's kind of all over the place.
Yeah, because we have all these new cards, so all these new decks are coming out, and people are playing with stuff. But we'll
It's gonna
see.
be a fun time to kind of figure out what to play in that.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think they haven't released all the details, right? But they're probably going to be similar with the best of 1, best of 3
Yeah,
options.
I think that's the same. Yeah, the best of 1 or best of 3 is the same, and then day 2 is best of 3. So
cool. Those are really fun tournaments. If you've never played in one, I encourage you to save up your gold and try to play in at least either the Draft Challenge or the Arena Open.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of cool to be able to play a pretty competitive event, on Arena from home, and it's I've always had fun playing them.
yeah. We also have Historic Brawl coming, which is like big news. Lots of people love Historic
Yeah,
Brawl.
this is huge.
Okay, so this is coming this weekend. It's November 20th, and people have been so excited about this. And it actually hasn't been something that's been offered many times. I know the first time that they did it was during, it was like March, and it was the festival Erebos' Memoir to Death. And so that was obviously, not even, I guess, 9 months ago, probably around that. But
I think that's what they're doing with these festivals, right? Is they're seeing the response rate,
yeah, and then
maybe it'll come back later.
because I think there was another one around Amonkhet as well.
Yeah, there was one, I think, somewhat recently.
Yeah, so maybe another like 4 times a year thing, but it's really like play as much as you can, because that's like Commander players. If you don't play Arena and you're listening to this right now, or you don't play it very much, this is your time to jump on and show them that this is what you want. And if they make it just a mainstay, you'll be able to play it much more often, obviously.
Yeah, Historic Brawl is a lot closer to the spirit of Commander than Brawl is.
Yes. Definitely. I mean, as far as like a non-rotating format, it's definitely, the card pool
And
is
there's some
significantly
powerful
smaller.
cards in Historic.
There are a lot of like good commanders in Historic.
Yeah.
That like you will sit down and play against them at a regular commander table. So you won't have all the busted pieces from years ago that you could use, but there's still, you still at least have the commander. So
You have some because of they injected old cards in, so some of them
exactly.
are there.
Well, yeah, some of the, I think in particular I'm thinking about Hapatra, who has like some weird old black cards from forever ago that like get to abuse certain weird things that you're not used to. But yeah, I'm definitely going to play in it. I'm going to build a deck for it. I don't know which one yet, but
yeah, I'm excited. So is it just for the weekend though?
I'm pretty sure. I don't think it's that long.
I was kind of hoping they would bring it back for like a few weeks,
I don't think it's a few weeks. I think it's really just similar to a festival time, so maybe about 5 days.
I don't even play Commander, but Historic Brawl sounds like my in to getting more into that.
Yeah.
Because so if from the other perspective, Zach was saying if you're a Commander player, this is your in to Arena, and let them know that by playing in the event. For me, it's almost the opposite. Like I already play in a lot of Arena, I have all these cards. This sounds fun. I might as well build it up and see what this sort of Commander play style. I know you can't play multiplayer, but still just the idea of building a singleton deck with a commander
Yeah.
and having all these options sounds fun to me. So
It's a lot of fun. I do greatly miss the multiplayer aspect because that's usually.
I think they said that eventually that is coming.
I mean, that would be great. I love that.
Depends how successful Brawl is, right? They're not going to invest all this time creating multiplayer.
Exactly.
If nobody would play it.
I think it's going to take a lot longer because they recently WotC bought Spell Table, which is that webcam software
that's kind of their outlet for.
Yeah, so I think for the short term at least, I think they're just going to be developing that and making it stamped as like a Magic product, and so they're going to really encourage people to continue to buy cards in paper and then play over webcam with your friends, because a lot of also the fun part about Commander things is playing with super old cards. They're not going to get that on Arena anytime soon, and alters, signed cards, all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
Can be a big.
There's
part.
a little bit of it on Arena. Like they have some
Sure.
cool card designs and sleeves.
Exactly. But I do think it's a little bit different. But it would be really great if they could get at least a 4-person historic brawl going on Arena. Would be pretty sweet.
Yeah. Are there any commanders in particular you would, thinking of sleeving up?
Yeah, I was thinking. I haven't really looked. I haven't been playing a lot of Commander at all, just because of the pandemic and everything. So some of the ones from Jumpstart seemed really fun. I definitely thought Bruvac was cool because I like Mono Blue Mill, and so just playing Mono Blue Mill.
Yeah, so that's the guy that like doubles all your
Yeah,
bills.
so Bruvac, the Grand Delinquent. He's 2 and a blue for a 1/4 human advisor. If an opponent would mill 1 or more cards, they mill twice that many cards instead.
Cool.
So it just kind of doubles all that stuff up.
We just lost all of our listeners who hate Mill.
Yeah, exactly. Well, sorry, you should play Mill.
Next thing we'll tell them we're playing Rogues.
Also, it could be absolutely terrible because there might not be enough Mill cards for Mono Blue.
True.
Most of the time when you build that deck, you have multiples of all the key cards.
Like I think your best card is the Teferi's Tutelage and then Psychic Corrosion, which kind of do the same thing.
So basically having that.
Could play Teferi, Master of Time.
That's true. I mean,
Doesn't really mill, but
it draws you cards,
Yeah.
and a lot of your mill cards care about that. So, but I think it should be fun. I'll try to build it at least, and then see where we're at. But yeah, what about you? What's probably like the first most exciting one that you want to?
Oh yeah, my number one. I was thinking the same thing. I went right to Jumpstart.
Yeah.
Right, because this is a set I just didn't really get to play with very much, and I thought of Tiny Bones, Trinket Thief.
Oh.
So a 1/2 for 1 and a black. At the beginning of each end step, if an opponent discarded a card this turn, you draw a card and lose 1 life. And then you can pay 4 black. Each opponent with no cards in hand loses 10 life. So it's discard tribal. This just sounds awesome. Everybody's going to hate me, of course.
Exactly.
But
well, really, it'll just be one person and your opponent, and you already don't care what they
exactly
that much anyway. So
a lot of the cards I really like are have discard in them, like the Liliana from M21.
Right. Okay.
Then obviously I'm going to play Thoughtseize.
Yeah.
I already crafted those for historic.
Are you going to play Duress? I mean, like, just to have an
I'm
extra
going to play Duress.
Yeah. Which art are you going to use? Because we have like 3, I think.
I thought they were all we only had one option, I thought.
No, so Duress, we have the one with the woman and the spikes. No, the elf. Sorry, the elf and the spikes.
Yeah. That's the one I have.
There's the one with the guy in the boat from Ixalan.
Oh, yeah, I do have that one.
And then there's another one.
There's another one, but I don't think you can get it. But it's the really old art from like 6th edition. It's my favorite one, but when it only appears if you click on alternate styles for Duress.
Oh, really?
And it says you can't purchase it. So I think it was some sort of special promo.
Well, I think I have it. I think I have 3 different Duress.
Man. That's cool.
I'll trade you one.
Oh,
if only.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited for that, and then you just support all the discard. You're basically playing 8 rack or the rack in Commander.
In Commander, well, in Brawl, yeah.
In Brawl, yeah. Which
would be cool. I do think so. I've wanted to play this Commander just in EDH, but I think this might be a good time to do it. I want to play Temet, Vizier of Nakatum. No, that's not right.
I'm 100% sure you pronounced that correctly.
Temet, Vizier of Naktamun. There we go. I can read. Yeah. It's white and blue for a 2/2 human cleric. And it says at the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature token you control gets +1/+1 until end of turn and can't be blocked this turn. And then you can embalm it for 3 white blue. But what I think is going to be really fun to play with this card is Shark Typhoon.
Nice.
So either you just make a big Shark Typhoon and then it already has flying, but
No,
like,
you want to make lots of sharks.
but ultimately you really want to play it and then have a bunch of white token making cards.
You're gonna play that like token doubling season thing from Amon Cat.
Yeah, I'll do Anointed Procession, but I'll also do the one that turns everything into angels.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So
Divine
even
Visitation.
yes, but then even if you have flyers, you can't block one of them at least. I don't know. It seems it seems strange, but I just want to make a shark unblockable.
But you'll pretty much never be like embalming that guy, right? Because he'll just go back to your command zone.
You can put him in the graveyard if you want and embalm him so that
And then he goes back to your command zone when you embalm him? Or is
the card will, yes.
Yeah.
So that's a way to play him multiple times without having to pay the commander tax.
Cool. That's what I was wondering,
Yeah. So when he dies, you can leave him in the graveyard and then embalm him. You'll exile him, put him in the command zone, get the token on the battlefields.
Oh, that's cool.
And then that token will see itself. You could, I guess. Oh no, you don't have commander damage in Brawl. So
so if I played the Scarab God, I would never have to pay commander tax basically because I could always just take it back into my hand.
yes, if you wanted to do that, yeah, you're allowed to do that. Yeah.
Interesting.
So just so you know,
I'm also excited about Tezzeret, the schemer from the new set. I figured it's Brawl. I got to try playing with a Planeswalker commander. Yes. And this one's one of my favorite Planeswalkers just because it's very synergistic. It's powerful when you build the synergies into it, but otherwise it kind of does nothing. My favorite types of cards.
Yeah.
So I'm going to build my Treasurette deck in Brawl. Anything that says treasure and is blue or black is going right in there.
Boom. Done.
Especially that counter spell that it's like a fixed version of
Mana Drain.
Mana Drain, yeah.
Yeah, it's Spell Swindle. Nope.
Oh, you got there. That is what it's called.
Spell Swindle.
Yeah. He just looked away for a minute, and I was like, "Did we lose him?"
I was like, "It's right there. I feel it."
And then he came back with the correct answer.
Maybe it's not. We'll look it up, and then I'll cut all this out. But going with that, I did think that playing a Planeswalker was something I want to look at, and one that I just a Planeswalker I didn't think was interesting when it came out. Still think it's like not a kill on sight card, which is what I want my commander to be usually, is a card that you're like, I should kill this, but it might be something on the board that's more important than killing the commander, right. So it can just sit there for a little bit, especially if it's a Planeswalker. So I want to play Kaya Orzhov Usurper.
Oh, yeah, very cool card. This was really underrated when it came out, I think.
A lot of people were saying it was the talks were like, it was one of the worst Planeswalkers ever made.
Which is basically never going to be true for a 3-mana Planeswalker.
Exactly. People were talking like, oh, is this like as bad as Tybalt's kind of thing? The first one, not the second one.
And then it just sees plenty of competitive play in tons of different formats.
Exactly, yeah. And it was definitely being played in a sideboard against, it was really good against the mono blue aggro that Autumn Burchett played.
Right. Funny story about Kaya, actually. The first Arena Open I played, this was when this Jeskai, Yorion, Luca, Fires of Invention, Agent of Treachery, nonsense deck was the best deck in Standard.
Yeah.
They used this data to ban that deck because it did so well in this tournament. But that was like the number one deck, and I decided to bring an Esper Control homebrew because I realized that Kaya was just awesome against every deck that was good right now. Like mono red, okay, I'm exiling 1-drops and gaining life. And then I went 7-0 in day one. Then I promptly went 0-2 in day two.
Yeah.
But, that was literally the whole reason I went Esper, was because I wanted Teferi. I was going to play blue-white for Teferi, and I wanted Kaya because I thought she was amazing.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I think it's definitely interesting. We'll see how it turns out. But yeah, I think it'd be fun. So yeah, that's kind of what we're excited about. But how about you tell us what you're excited about for Historic Brawl?
Let us know what historic commanders you would.
Yeah, come find us on Instagram or Twitter at Arena Regulars.
There was one more thing in the.
Oh yes, there was one more.
It's classic. Something was pushed back. So mobile arena, like MTG Arena for mobile devices, has been pushed back to 2021.
Yes.
And we'll get more information when they release call time.
Yep. I wasn't really thinking about that right now. I just got Mac, and that took a long time, so I'm good for a while. Like, you take your time, you do whatever. Those mobile people can. If you don't have a computer, I don't know.
I honestly don't know if I would play Arena on my phone anyway.
I think it'd be so hard.
Yeah, I just don't know what situation I'm in where that's what I'm doing.
At the airport?
Yeah, maybe. Okay.
Maybe
waiting for a flight.
Yeah, which isn't going to happen very much right now.
No, now's not the time to release it.
Yeah, and that's why they're pushing it back. I'd much rather them focus their energies on getting like 8-person draft on Arena working.
Right.
8-person like custom pod.
The problem with that is like, do they play against only each other or do they go into the queues? Because then you have this, I think the situation of, I jump in with all my friends, they pass me a broken deck, and I just smash everybody in the
Do you think people would do that, though?
I think people would do that. I know I wouldn't do that.
I just feel like...
It doesn't seem worth it, and you need like 7 friends who want to
but
who want to dump the draft.
Yeah, who are going to... How do you have 7 friends who just want to straight up dump the draft to give you a chance to beat on them and other... I mean...
Yeah. I don't know. There are going to be some min-maxers that figure out some way to abuse the system. But I think there should be like a phantom set up your 8-player. Yeah. Like, you don't keep the cards. It's no money. You just set it up with your friends. And you just play against your friends.
That'd be interesting.
Like, that'd be cool.
Like a free-to-play... Just like but then...
Do what we would kind of be doing if we like met up and drafted anyways. Just, you don't get to keep the cards.
Yeah. I just feel like I don't know if Wizards would put time into making that work so that people don't do that. Yeah. It just doesn't make any sense to me necessarily. But I think, being able to match up like a regular video game lobby where you just have your party and you jump into other, you have other teams.
Yeah, that'd be great. I just think, they're worried. I think they are concerned about, let's say you and I jump in together and we're communicating over Discord about what we're seeing in the draft. We have an edge over the 6 randos.
I guess. Paired with okay, so I see what you mean by just like talking about it, but still, like,
there's got to be a solution. They should be able to run their own tournaments on their own client.
Exactly. Yes, they definitely should be able to run their own tournaments, and they're gonna look so dope when they do because we know it's coming. It's gonna happen. Like, it's not just out in nowhere.
I really want just spectator mode for these to make watching these tournaments better.
Yeah, I just want to watch it on Arena, which would be great.
Yeah.
Seems fairly simple to be able to do, and the chat function works well enough that I'm sure you could just have like a chat with anybody.
We all just get emotes. We get a little head, and we can use our emotes and stickers.
You like are in the on the outskirts of the battlefield?
You're like watching in the stands.
Yeah, we're like in basically they have like a plane that's like Battle Bond, and we're all in the stands and we're yelling about different things.
And just Zach's sticker.
Yeah, it's just me just throwing the fingers all day. That's pretty funny. I'd be down. I would definitely like sit and watch that. But anyway.
And then you could play your own matches in between.
Yeah, totally. You can jump in and out. I mean, like, you can basically do that now, but...
I got to alt-tab, though.
Yeah, exactly. I got to switch between my desktops. Whatever. Anyway, we hope that comes at some point, but I really hope there's other things they're working on for Arena that seem more interesting. So
yeah, and we know a lot of people really pumped for it to come out on mobile.
Yeah. So
sorry for those of you that have to wait a little longer. Zach had to go through the same thing.
Yeah, you gotta take it.
Yeah,
it happens.
But he can tell you it does happen eventually.
It does happen eventually, and it feels so good. But with that, I think I need another beer.
Yeah, me too. All right.
It's not exactly the same doing it real instead of...
I know. We should just always do the fake sounds.
Yeah, maybe we should just
open
always
them
do
off
the
air and
fake sounds. Yeah. All right.
Got the smoked honey over here.
Yeah, I got this coffee blonde,
which may or may not be a brown ale.
Coffee blonde. That almost has like a hair dye sound. Coffee blonde?
Yeah. I would get that color.
Okay. All right. That really messes with you.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Because you're not expecting it to taste like that.
Yeah, because it looks so different, and especially in this mug, it just looks like moose head or something.
Yeah.
And then you taste it, and you're like, "Am I drinking a cup of coffee?" And then you have some beer. You're like, "Okay, that's beer."
I think the first time I tried a blonde stout. Now this isn't quite a blonde stout, but it's a coffee infused blonde ale.
Yeah.
The first time I tried a blonde stout, it took me the whole beer to decide whether or not I liked it. And at the end, I was just like, I still don't know. Because I like the taste.
Yeah.
But it just messes with my mind, man.
Yeah, it's just... Yeah, I don't even know. We'll figure it out.
It's pretty good, though. It just tastes like a honey brown.
Yeah, it's not as smoky as I was hoping.
I know. I think... I couldn't read your reaction, so...
Yeah, I was trying to keep it really low profile.
So I was expecting also, oh man, it's got to be super smoky.
So I was kind of hoping it would be like very smoky. Mm-hmm. It's almost there.
Kind of.
I think it's really smoky, I think it's really honey.
Yeah, it tastes like a honey brown, but there is definitely some smokiness going on.
Yeah, well, the jury's still out on this one, but we'll figure it out.
Well, we have a whole segment
we have a whole beer to
decide,
drink before we do that. So, but yeah, so we played some Kaladesh, and we have some first impressions about it.
Yeah, I figured we'd just grab some beers and talk some Kaladesh, because
that sounds great to me.
I've been playing a lot actually since it came out. Just been really pumped on a variety of different formats, and so I have some impressions.
I also have some impressions. I played a lot, and I remember most of it.
Nice.
I definitely had some decks the next day. I was like looking at Untapped. I was like,
when did I draft that?
When did I draft this?
When did I go 03?
Yeah, I was like, and it was definitely 03. I was like, interesting. Yeah. I did have a Torrential Gearhulk though. That seems pretty.
Oh, that's sweet.
And then I was like, I don't think I played. I don't even remember. So I don't really know how that one went. But yeah, how'd you do? What were you doing?
I did some drafting as well. That's how I started. Right. Whenever a new set comes out, you just want to draft it a lot.
Yeah.
New draft formats are awesome.
Yeah.
And B, you want to build up your collection.
Exactly.
So, any card you don't have to use a wild card on, might as well learn about it right away.
Yes.
And so I didn't do a lot though. I did maybe 5-ish drafts. And it's kind of was what I expected. It was somewhere between Kaladesh draft and Aether Revolt draft. And to be honest, it just kind of reminded me that I didn't love Kaladesh draft when that was the format of choice. I loved Aether Revolt, but I didn't like Kaladesh that much. And the reason was that Kaladesh is very snowbally. If one player kind of gets ahead and the other player stumbles at all, they just kind of get steamrolled.
Yeah.
And then to sort of complement that, it's also really bomb-centric, I find. There are just the rare cards and even some choice uncommons are just so much better than all the commons and uncommons that sometimes you can play a really great game, it comes back and forth, and then your opponent just drops some mythic rare.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you could do.
Awesome. Yeah.
Like, I don't know, have you seen this Demon of Dark Schemes card? Got hosed by that one. I got beat by Tezzeret making an Ethereum cell, which my opponent then sacked to ramp out Demon of Dark Schemes a turn earlier. And then they used Confiscation Coup on my best thing. And I was like, oh cool. So turn 4 mythic rare, turn 5 mythic rare, turn 6 like
steal
one of the
bomb?
Best rares in the set.
Great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So they just had like 4 of my creatures in play by the end of this event.
So it is interesting because I feel like every time I'm playing, blue-black has been open a lot. At least and I haven't really played it. There was one draft I didn't have Demon of Dark Schemes. I had Herald of the something.
Anguish.
Herald of the Anguish.
Herald of Anguish.
Of Anguish.
That was in my Treasurette deck, so I know it.
Yeah. So it's the improvised flying one that you can sack artifacts.
Makes you discard cards and
kill stuff. Yeah, at the beginning of each end step, it makes them discard cards. So I thought that was it's a 5/5 flyer that improvises out.
Oh, but it was a bomb.
Definitely most of the time I was just the rest of my deck was not good enough and I just wasn't in a good place. But I definitely saw that I think the first deck I made was it was green, red, and it was just creatures, basically. Just like almost completely creatures.
Probably a bit of an energy sub-theme.
There was some, there's a little bit of an energy sub-theme. But basically, the first game I played, I was just laughing because I had a Ridge Scale Tusker, which is one of the big reasons I was green. And our boards were like pretty even. And then I think they were at like 18 life, and I played a Ridge Scale Tusker, and they just said, good game, and then just scooted. Just they're like, done. I was like, oh, okay. Wow. I have seen that people remember which cards they are looking for to either kill immediately or different things. So it has been interesting the stuff that gets killed that I didn't think was going to get killed. I was like, oh, okay, I guess you really think that is bad, or you knew that was terrible. You're going to use a Harness Lightning on something I thought wasn't worth doing that, but maybe things are just better than I think they are. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, there is a lot of removal in this set, but at the same time, there are these bombs flying around that you need to save removal for.
Yeah. So, but I definitely know what you're talking about with the kind of snowbally effect where if someone starts to get ahead, it's hard to catch up.
I mean, Thriving Rhino is just the perfect example. You get caught behind a Thriving Rhino, and you're just you're taking so much damage.
Just because the Thriving Rhino is going to get stronger as it attacks, and a lot of the cards that you probably drafted to be chumpers for things like that or different stuff, you have to attack for them to, like any of the Aether cards, you have to attack to get a servo.
Yeah.
And you can't attack. Usually they have something else that's big enough to kill one of those things. So it can get pretty difficult trying to get enough creatures, even just to crew something to try to stand up to a Rhino, or even trade with a Rhino when it can get big enough.
So yeah, I didn't play that much because I kind of got beat down by rares and then got sick of it. I think I will circle back to it. I think I was just kind of on the wrong side of variants. Like, I drafted a couple of green-black decks that I thought were busted because they had multiple snakes, multiple ridge scale tuskers. Like, I thought they were really good decks, good curve. And then I just get kind of cheesed out of the game by some ridiculous mythic rare and go, 2-3 with this amazing deck. Happened a few times, and then I was just like, I'm going to take a break from this format.
That makes you feel pretty good, because I went 2-3 with some pretty terrible decks. And I was like, I really squeezed out a couple wins there. I should not have.
It's funny how that feels, right? You know, we both went 2-3, but you're feeling fine about it. And I'm like devastated. Because
I definitely have been.
The draft went so well.
Yeah. I was pretty proud. I think I went 3-3 with a deck that the only win con was Minister of
Inquiries.
Yeah, Inquiries, because I had two of them, and I just had a ton of things that made energy.
Yeah, that card can kill your opponent, and your opponent never wants to use removal on it.
Exactly. So I was like, "You're not going to kill this thing," and sometimes they'll just bounce it back to my hand. I'm like, "Okay, play it. 2 more energy."
Just constructed All-Star, by the way, Minister of Inquiries. Features in a deck in a later segment.
So. Similar to my Ruin Crab problem became my new problem.
Right, it's your Ruin Crab.
And every time I see it, I'm like, I should take it. But it's not as good as Ruin Crab because, obviously I get Ruin Crab's just free value from things you're going to do anyway.
Yeah.
And you have to tap it and all this stuff. But I still, every time I see it, I'm like, no, I shouldn't. I'm not in blue.
Don't go down that path.
It's pack 3. Don't take it.
That's a common, right? So you're just far more.
It's an uncommon.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's exactly like Ruin Crab.
Yeah, exactly. So it's
never forget that draft I sent you where I had 3 Ruin Crabs. You're just like, 3?
Come on, I never get 3.
And I was like, yeah, I got them all late in pack 3 too.
I was like, fuck you. But
I had to send that one.
Yeah, I think I've drafted. So people really don't like playing Electrostatic Pummeler. I think I've drafted 3 or 4 of them. I might have a playset just from drafting them.
You could build a deck.
I could probably, I'm thinking about building just a historic deck with them because I have all of them now. And the rest of the pieces for most of those decks are all commons and uncommons. For the most part, I think Bristling Hydra is another piece that people use, but...
Yeah, but it's not even like...
It's just a rare.
You don't need it either.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just like...
You could build a deck where the only rares are Electrostatic Pummeler and lands.
Yeah.
And it would be like a totally fine deck.
Yeah, so maybe I'll do that for next week, and I can show you guys.
And it plays a little similar to the Boggles style decks that you
I know.
like.
I watched a couple videos today, and I was like, "Ooh, this looks fun." Just killing them out of nowhere.
Very protect the queen kind of thing too. I only have this creature, but I have a lot of ways to give it hexproof.
Yeah, I do. I think I am a big fan of like basically using Protect the Queen cards, right? The hexproof cards are essentially your removal or your counter spells, basically. Yeah. So instead of removing stuff, you just protect the thing and make it better than everything else and just be like, haha!
And Kaladesh brought a pretty damn good one with Blossoming Defense.
Blossoming Defense. I actually lost a game because... So we had pretty even boards. I was playing this green-blue crap, I think. Not great deck. But I had a choice. I played Rishkar's Expertise, drew some cards.
That's pretty good.
Had 3 lands open afterwards. Our boards were stalled. And I was like, okay, I'm at 3 life. I have good blocks on everything because they had a bunch of servos. But I had really good blocks. I had a bunch of like 2/3s and stuff. So I was like, I have Blossoming Defense in my hand. Or I can play Wildest Dreams and get Rishkar's Expertise back for next turn.
Wildest Dreams.
Exactly. And so I've been wanting to play Wildest Dreams because of Taylor Swift. And
I'm sorry I did that without you. We were supposed to do it
I know we were
together.
supposed to do it together. I'm pretty upset about it. But it's fine. Anyway, so I was like, okay, as I'm casting Wildest Dreams to get Rishkar's expertise back, I'm like, maybe the only way that I lose this match is if I lose one of my creatures. But they had no cards in hand, so I was like, okay, this will be fine. And then, of course, they untap, and then they draw the removal spell that deals 3 damage to a creature and 2 to your face.
Yep.
And then they won by the 1 servo they got through.
That's awesome.
And I was like,
awesome for them.
And I should have just kept it up.
That's the classic thing. As soon as you make a play and realize, oh, there is this one really low likelihood out that they could have. I should have done something slightly different, but I'm sure it doesn't matter. You know they're going to
just have it.
You know that's it.
So that was a bummer. But
you learned something.
Yes, and I got to cast Wildest Dreams.
Well done.
That's how I'm going to sing it from now on, I think.
8 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. One thing I did want to say is my only, I shouldn't say my only successful run, but like the only run I got to 7 wins with was with red-white aggro.
Okay.
So it was, I'm not going to remember the name of this card, but it's like a 2/3 for 3. And whenever an artifact enters the battlefield, it gets +2/+0 and trample till end of turn. It's a common.
Oh, okay.
And I just had a few of these guys, and then a whole bunch of.
You're talking about the salivating
gremlins. Yeah, exactly. So it's a 2/3 for 3 in red, and whenever an artifact ETBs, it gets +2/+0 and trample. And then I played a whole bunch of Cog Workers puzzle knots and servo exhibitions, and basically things that make multiple artifacts.
Yeah.
And kind of just steamrolled people with these. Like I attacked for 20 with 2 of these salivating gremlins. My opponent was beating me down with thriving rhinos, and I'm just taking all the damage. And then I'm like, all right, here we go. Yep, that gets them both up to 10. Let's attack.
Boom. That's hilarious.
Yeah, so beware of that card, because in these red-white decks, it was shockingly easy to get them up to like 8 power tramplings.
Yeah.
And for a 3-drop common,
Totally.
So that was my one sort of big success that wasn't an archetype I knew was good. I just kind of ended up in it.
Yeah.
I still don't know if it's good, but when you're playing against it, you have to beware that there are a lot of ways to make 2 or even 3 artifacts.
Yeah.
Because Cogworker's Puzzle Knot makes 3 if you have enough mana, because it comes into play, makes a servo, it's an artifact, and you can sack it to make another servo.
Yeah.
So you can, just with 1 card, you can give this thing +6/+0 and trample.
That's and especially if you have more of them, because they're really easy to get.
Yeah, exactly. They're commons that nobody else really wants.
Yeah.
So
and then people aren't really thinking about the gremlin if it's just sitting on the battlefield, because it seems like it's not that.
Yeah. So it's pretty innocuous, and this is a format where, you got to save removal for the big stuff.
Yes.
So the 2/3 doesn't really. It looks unassuming.
Exactly. And it's going to be
10.
Yeah. So after you told me that story, I would definitely started killing those whenever I could. I'm like, okay, that's pumped up maybe twice. I don't really want this around anymore.
Right.
I'm going to prioritize that.
Pretty bad on defense, though.
Pretty bad on defense.
But yeah, that was basically my Kaladesh draft experience. Like I said, I'm going to play more because I hope to play in this draft challenge, actually.
Yeah.
And I want to collect my Tezzerets, so I need to start grinding the drafts to build my collection soon.
I actually feel pretty good because I almost have a playset of all the fast lands.
Wow.
I did pretty good.
You nailed it.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you're looking to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of it was like each draft I'd get probably 1, maybe 2.
Mm-hmm.
But then I just kept opening them in prize packs, and I was like, great, this is awesome. I think the only one I don't have any copies of is Botanical Sanctum. And that's a kind of important one-ish.
If you want to play Uro, yeah.
Yeah, so...
although even then, I think that deck mostly wants the shocks. Because, it expects to have 4 lands in play very early on in the game with Growth Spiral.
Yeah, so I guess maybe it's not very good.
Well, no, I mean, if you want to play like Pummeler decks,
they
were often blue-green as well.
So that also works. Or if I want them, that's really good. Or if I just want to play Kinnan in Historic Brawl.
There you go.
That's
You're going to want one of these.
Yeah, so...
I mean, they're best for aggro decks.
Mm-hmm.
I think when Kaldheim comes around,
Mm-hmm.
basically any of these color pairs, the aggro decks are going to be 4 of these and 4 pathways. And that's going to be kind of your default. And then you'll supplement it with shocks and stuff.
Yeah. So I was wondering, do we know for sure if we're getting the rest of the pathways during Kaldheim?
Yeah, Morrow said that.
They said specifically Kaldheim.
Yep.
Okay. Well, that's good to know, because I was thinking, it would also make sense if we had them in Innistrad, because they're flip lands.
Yeah.
And if they're making them as a sheet, another set that has flip cards would make sense.
So that's the thing. Kaldheim also has flip cards.
There you go.
Yeah, so Morrow basically said that when they happened upon this like MDFC thing, modal double-faced cards.
Which is a horrible name, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
I really hope that they would come up with something else, but whatever. That's
The
what
community will come up with something clever.
Yeah. Come on, somebody. Are we just going to call all of them pathways now?
Yeah, everything's a pathway.
And anything that flips into a land is a pathway,
Yeah.
even if it doesn't say pathway on it.
But he basically said they came up with so many ideas for them that they then decided each kind of set would have its own take on modal double-faced cards. So Zendikar was that one side of every card was a land. At least one side of every card was a land because it's a land-based set.
Sure.
But in Kaldheim, that might not be
like
the case.
equipment.
Yeah, it could be like an equipment spell kind of thing. Who knows?
That seems pretty
It has
sweet,
to fit
actually.
the theme of Kaldheim. And so...
I mean, Vikings and axes. Anyway, sorry, I'm not going to go too deep into it. But
I know, I
that
kind of
seems-
want to start theory, like, just, yeah.
But like, how often do you want an equipment and you actually don't have any creatures for it? If you had a creature and then it could flip to be equipment,
Oh, I
even
think
if-
that's definitely something they'll do. I don't know if it's in Kaldheim, but
that seems pretty cool to me. Anyway, whatever. Sorry, getting too excited about something that's not real.
Strixhaven's going to be like wizard/spell flip cards.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
But yeah, so that's kind of their plan. So there are MDFCs.
So this is just going to be the next year where we're just going to see a bunch of these flip cards.
Exactly. And so...
Especially with Innistrad for sure. So, or I
so,
guess,
like you're saying, the reason there's 6 and Zendikar is like a sheet thing, and so the other 4 are on the sheets of Kaldheim.
so then maybe they only have 4 of each of the other ones. Possibly. Who knows? But yeah, Historic seems to be pretty wide open right now. There's a lot of different...
Yeah, it sure is. I mean, we knew Kaladesh was going to mix things up. I think the effect it's had is like less than people thought. Like some of the cards aren't necessarily the powerhouses we assumed they might be.
Yeah, or remembered them to be.
Yeah, because, obviously comparing their dominance in standard to dominance in historic's not the same. But it's still shaking up the meta in a very real way.
You're seeing a lot of different decks you wouldn't be expecting. A lot of Aetherworks Marvel decks are going around.
Yeah, none of them seems to have found the secret yet.
Yeah. So sometimes you'll play it and you don't know if you're playing against one or not. And then they'll play like Attune to Aether or something. And you're like, or Attune with Aether. And you're like, there you go.
Right.
Okay, this is probably Aetherworks Marvel.
Yeah, I haven't been impressed with the versions that are trying to go all in and, turn 4 Marvel into Ulamog is kind of their only way to win.
I've seen a lot more where it's just Ugin. I'm just seeing like...
But
getting hit
even
with
then, like
Ugins.
an early Ugin doesn't guarantee a win.
I guess a lot of times
It wipes the board. That's pretty sweet.
I'm usually playing like aggro decks.
Yeah, but your Bomat Courier sticks around.
That's true, but usually they just like people have been sniping out Bomat Couriers like
Yeah, people know to kill that card.
They know
Anyone who
immediately.
played during that standard knows that card must die at all costs.
And so then I can get other things to hit the battlefield, but
you only need your opponent to like refuel to a 6-card handoff Bomat Courier one time before you kill it on sight. For
and
the
then
rest
you're like,
of your
oh, I have to kill that always.
Yeah.
It is really interesting. I also had someone lava coil my Hazaret, and then I just went nice, and then just nothing happened.
Did they give you the crying sticker?
They did actually.
Nice,
And then they just
Proper
conceded.
etiquette. Yeah.
Yeah. But I did feel bad because I went nice. Almost thinking like this might actually be an interaction that I thought that wouldn't work, but maybe it does.
Yeah.
And it definitely didn't. I was like, okay, that works.
I
The way
wonder
that
if
thought.
they were like, I'm going to lose if this doesn't work anyways. Let me fire this off
and see.
and just confirm that it doesn't work.
Yeah, just because that's a replacement effect, right? So it won't ever die, so it won't go to exile.
Exactly, yeah. One thing along that line that I wanted to mention, for those of you that have not played with Fatal Push, Fatal Push is worded in kind of a weird way. It says, destroy target creature if its converted mana cost is 2 or less. That means you can target whatever you want. But if you target a 6-drop with it, nothing will happen. The Fatal Push will just go right to the graveyard. So we're used to removal spells that are conditional, just only being able to target those things, so Arena won't even let us do it.
Right.
Fatal Push is one where it will let you do it, but it just won't work. This is particularly bad if you forget that you haven't triggered Revolt. You might use it on a 4-drop and think, oh, it's letting me target it. Okay,
So, God.
I can kill this 4-drop, and then nothing happens because you forgot to trigger Revolt first.
Oof.
So this is something to watch out with Fatal Push.
That's good to know. I haven't been playing a lot of Fatal Push, so that's good to know that Reno will just be like, go for it.
Yeah, try it. See what happens. Because I used to play it on Magic Online, and I got by that a couple of times, and then I realized, okay, it will let me target anything. let me make sure.
Okay. Well, good to know.
So it hasn't happened to me on Arena because I sort of got already scared by it.
Yeah, you
Magic
already
Online,
know.
yeah. I already learned my lesson.
But with that, Jeff, how are you feeling about these beers?
Pretty good, man.
Yeah. I like the Spirit Wolf. It's a trip.
Yeah, it's one of the, you're not sure how to feel about it, and then start to come around, I think.
Yeah. I think let's do Spirit Wolf first, I think.
Okay.
So I like the packaging. It's good. There is this interesting thing that I sometimes have a weird bug in my head that like these cans that have this, I don't know,
Yeah.
right? It's like a seam where they kind of you can feel that they slap something on. It's like a plastic sometimes. Collective Arts does this all the time.
Right. It's where the label like meets up on the other side.
So I have like there is a small part of me that has like a weird distaste for it. Strange. I don't know why.
Do you prefer the ones that are clearly just a silver can and then you can see the label? It like reveals that it's doing this, where it's putting a sticker over top of the space.
No, I think it's just the way you hold when you hold it and you feel it.
Feel it. Okay.
It just that's what it. I don't care the way it looks. Like Collective Arts, I think looks so cool, but I can feel it when I touch it.
Yeah, this one you can kind of see.
Yeah, you
an
can
overlap,
see it,
but you can't actually feel it.
but you can't touch it, right? And most beer cans.
Sorry,
are kind
I
of
was
like
using the other one.
that. Yes, yeah, the other one. But yeah, so that would be my only gripe with like the actual look of the can.
I feel like we're getting pretty nitpicky.
We're reading. I mean, I feel like I grade them so highly that I need to like start.
Yeah,
really
we need to start
focusing
just laying the smack down. You know, pretend it's Brad Nelson and his
This
dog is sick. Or
you know
something,
what?
you know?
It's got a dog on it.
Yeah.
You know, bronze. Screw you. Just kidding. It's a wolf. And Brad, I'm still sorry. But no, I do like it. I think I don't know if I'd ever like see it and be like, I'm definitely picking this. But now that I've tasted it, I'm like, this is definitely a beer I want people to try, and I will definitely bring to show to different people.
Yeah, it's really cool, right?
Yeah. So I'm glad you showed it to me.
Yeah.
I will definitely give this platinum. Like the can feels like a high platinum.
I was thinking the same thing. I was going to give it Plat 1.
Yeah, Plat 1 feels pretty good with this. It's like your fun brew that's just not good enough to get to Diamond, and you just sit in Plat 1 for a while, and you're like, you know what? I'm fine with this though. Like we can have some fun.
I'm just having a great time. You know?
I go up, I go
winning
down,
like exactly 50%.
Yeah, it's all good. You know, I'm just gonna drink this. I'm fine. So that's kind of how I feel about that.
Yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing.
Pretty solid. How about the smoked honey? Smoked in, I'm gonna say quotations right here.
Yeah, so I like this. Honestly, if they just took out the word smoked, I might like it more, because the fact that they put the word smoked on there like raises my expectation that I like smoked flavors.
Yes.
So when I see that, I'm kind of excited, and then it just doesn't bring that much of that actually.
It really just feels like they don't know what tongues are, I guess.
Like I get a lot more honey than
yeah, it's like, what's going on with your taste buds? Yeah. So whenever somebody seems to market something that seems like off to me, I'm a little bit worried about what they are tasting or what other products they will be putting out.
Right.
Not
I
that
can't trust them.
Yeah, I don't trust them. What was this?
This didn't taste leathery at all.
Yeah, so this is Royal City. I mean, like everyone's taste buds are different. Everybody has different words for what tastes they kind of have. I think it's a good honey beer, but I've definitely had much better, and the smoked doesn't really come through. So I'm probably just I might actually give it a gold.
Yeah, I was gonna go either low platinum or high gold on this.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't think it's bad.
It's not bad.
I do like brown ales. I think it's kind of an underrated style, and this does hit the kind of maltiness you want from that.
It definitely does. But I think I was just disappointed. I was hoping it was going to be weirder. I wanted like some weird smoke.
Yeah,
something.
somehow I brought the weird.
How did you bring the weird beer? I feel like, I don't know.
You're gonna have to up your game. Yeah, so let's say
guess so.
gold one. For
Let's say gold one. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to get too nitpicky with all this stuff, but gold, high gold.
Yeah, still good, respectable.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be there once a month.
Not if you achieve your goal this month.
Yes. Well, I think I'm going to achieve my gold instead.
Heyo.
That's not very good, but I'm gonna
Loved
take
it.
But with that, anyway, let's go to a beer break.
All right,
Here we go.
Zach, what did you pick?
I went with the Spirit Wolf.
Yeah, that's the coffee blonde.
Yeah, the coffee blonde is good. This is 2 weeks in a row that I picked your beer. I think I need to like give some more thought to my beer.
You're gonna have to up your game, I think.
Yeah, I'm like not happy about it.
I mean, last week was a shoe-in.
Yeah, last week was rough because that's just like, good. This one I was thrown off by because I definitely thought I was going to bring the most interesting beer.
Yeah.
And you did somehow. So,
well, your beer seemed to be less interesting than advertised, and mine was more interesting than advertised.
Yeah. So yours was like, I don't really know about this, but I'll try it. And mine was like, ooh, that seems. And then they just flip-flopped.
Yep.
Which,
Let's call it variance.
Yes, it's variant.
Chalk that one up to variance.
So this next section, we are talking about historic deck lists that you can play. We have 3 for you. There's a budget version, a like medium, and then like an expensive version. But we did kind of coin this term, which I'm pretty excited about.
Yeah.
We are calling this go wide, go tall, mill it all.
Nice.
So this is the blue-white edition. So all the decks will be blue-white. So the premise is that you will craft the lands that you need, and your mana base will be the same for all the decks.
Right. So for blue-white, for example, you get your hallowed fountains.
Yes.
You get your glacial fortresses. Maybe your temples of enlightenment, I want to say.
Yes, and then you could an irrigated farmland here and there.
Exactly.
But that's basically the mana base that we're working with. And these are 3 different decks that you can play and kind of, you can start on the budget one and then kind of work your way up if you don't have those yet, or 3 different decks that you might already have the pieces for that you can just play.
Yeah. And we've said it before and we'll say it again. Don't play with bad mana bases.
Never play with a bad mana base.
You should get the mana base first.
Yes.
And that's the idea here. So our budget deck has no other rares. The only rares in the deck are lands. You start here.
Because remember, they're the most important thing to your deck. It takes up like over a third of your deck is lands. You should play good ones. Just focus on playing magic, right? A lot of people get frustrated when they're like, oh, well, I didn't draw another land, or I drew too many, or whatever, or I didn't have the right colors, or whatever.
Right. I have this Narset and this Wrath of God, but, I didn't, couldn't play one on turn 3 and then the other on turn 4. Why not?
Because you weren't playing with a good mana base.
Right. So that's the idea. So we have, as we said, a budget edition. Literally no non-land rares. Somewhere that's halfway between. I don't know exactly how many rares are in our list, but
yeah. I think
there are more non-rare non-land cards than there are rare non-land cards.
Yeah,
or about 50-50.
Yeah. But definitely. So, and we're going to do this forever. So when we talk about budget decks in historic, or just I guess anything, we are never talking about the lands being budget.
Yes.
Lands you should have them, and that's how just the base level you should play.
Right.
Have those lands.
And to sort of compensate for that, we're putting no rares in the non-land slots. So let's get started with that budget deck then.
Yeah, what's the budget deck? You brewed this one up.
Yeah, so the budget deck for blue-white is essentially it's a blue-white flyers deck. Now, if I'm not mistaken, they should be able to find these deck lists by following our Instagram or our Twitter.
Yeah, so if you go on, go to our Instagram or Twitter. We will post links for all this stuff. A lot of it's going to be on MTG Goldfish. But that is where you can find it to follow along if you'd like. But we'll also talk about the important cards here.
Yeah, and if you just want to grab this list and start playing, that's where you'll find it.
Yeah.
Back in the day, when sort of Kaladesh / Amonkhet was the standard format, there's a really strong standard deck called Blue-White Monument.
Okay.
And it was built around Oketra's Monument. So this kind of started with me wanting to play Blue-White Monument. But also, since then, we've got a lot of like Blue-White flying cards, and we've got a Lord Empyrean Eagle, which gives flying creatures +1/+1. We've given other reasons that you want a lot of flyers in your deck, like Lofty Denial, which counters something. If you have a flyer, it makes them pay 4.
And it's so good.
It's like a really supercharged mana leak if you're in a flying deck. And Rally of Wings gives all flying creatures +2/+2 and untaps them at instant speed. It's like a really good sort of, mini overrun type effect in the deck. So I decided to combine these things. It's a blue-white flyers deck that plays Oketra's Monument as a way to sort of grind people out. And I think what makes this deck viable is Cloudblazer, new edition. This is 3 white-blue for a 2/2 flying. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life and draw 2 cards. This gives this kind of tempo-based, aggressive, like it leans aggressive, but it can play the long game because of cards like this that just draw cards. If you get an Oketra's Monument down, this only costs 4 and will make a 1/1 when it comes into play. Draw you 2 cards, gain 2 life.
Boom.
Like this deck can really keep up. So the idea is you get behind some cheap flyers, best one being Spectral Sailor. But there's also Siren Storm Tamer, which helps protect your key cards. And then Watcher of the Spheres, which is a 2/2 flying pseudo lord. It gets pumped by other flyers and it makes your flyers cheaper.
Yeah.
And then you protect them with counter magic. I have a couple copies of Spell Pierce, but like we talked about, Lofty Denial is kind of the big one.
Yeah.
And yeah, I played this deck. I played it mostly in Platinum, and I had a respectable win rate, above 50%. I wasn't, destroying everyone. But, it was also early builds of the deck, and I made a lot of mistakes because the deck's actually not that easy to play.
Yeah. And most of the time you will find that any deck you're like, oh, this is really straightforward. You start playing it. It gets a lot more complicated when you actually have a lot of things to think about.
Right.
But anytime I can play a Cloudblazer for white-blue, possibly, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
You just get like a couple of Oketra's Monuments and a Watcher of the Spheres. Boom.
So it has to be the other way, because Oketra's Monument actually is legendary. Something to watch out for. But
Sorry.
2 Watchers and a Monument? There you go.
Yes. So 1 Oketra's Monument
Yeah.
and 2 Watchers of the Spheres. You can get your Cloudblazer to be just 2 mana.
Yeah, and then I made it up to Diamond with a different deck. I was playing a different deck in Historic, and then I came back to this, tuned it a bit more, and I was able to win a few matches in Diamond. So, this is a very reasonable deck to dip your toes into Historic with. It's just because it has almost all uncommons doesn't mean it's bad.
Right? Absolutely not. This deck has, earlier versions of this deck has wrecked me just because, all of a sudden I just can't block any flyers.
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay, well, you're just attacking for a ton in the air every turn. I can't even chump anything.
Yeah, and with Watcher of the Spheres, sometimes you have these turns where you just play 2 Empyrean Eagles, and that makes 2 tokens from your monument, and then everything is just huge.
Yeah.
And then, like I say, with Elite Guard Mage and Cloudblazer, you're just refilling your hand to just keep up the pressure.
Yeah.
And you can kind of keep them off balance with your Lofty Denials. So it's a pretty fun deck. It's kind of tempo-based. And, yeah, it can be surprisingly good. I was playing against, Yorion, Esper, Doom decks, and I was keeping up with them in cards in the late game.
Yeah, I believe that.
And I'd play against control decks, and I actually outgrinded the control deck was my way to win because they kept having to wrath the board, and then I'd just refill my hand with more creatures that draw cards. So, yeah, a really fun deck if you just want to build up your mana base and then play an uncommon base deck.
Just right away. If you're sitting on you don't have your mana base for Historic is literally 0. You're like, I don't have any Hallowed Fountains. I don't have any Glacial Fortresses or even Temples. And even if you're just sitting on 8 rare wild cards, boom, you can play this deck.
Drop the Temples.
And play the deck. You can play the Lifelands instead. They're obviously much worse. But the biggest ones are going to be Hallowed Fountain and Glacial Fortress.
Honestly, if you drop the Temples, put an Island and Plains in there, it's not that different.
It's really as we said before with our staples conversation, the Shocklands are all staples for Historic. They're very important. Get them, but this is the first step, choosing your color pair. If you are blue-white, this is a great way to start.
And one thing to just note, this is going to apply to all blue-white decks, but when the blue-white pathway comes out, this deck in particular will benefit a lot from that. Just being an aggressively slanted deck. It wants blue 1-drops, but it wants a lot of plains as well.
Yeah. So are you saying when the pathways come out, are we just replacing glacial fortresses for the pathways? Or
no, I think you're replacing probably 2 temples and
two
then
temples,
like an island and a plains or something like that.
and still keep all 4 glacial fortresses?
Yeah, because this deck doesn't really care about actually having basic lands. It doesn't run Fabled Passage, and it doesn't have anything that cares about basic lands. So, like, island and plains are straight upgraded by a pathway.
Yeah,
right.
That's true. Okay, definitely makes sense.
And it doesn't love tapped lands, so the temples are already not the best. They're just kind of in there to make the mana work.
Yeah.
Now, just because this deck that I have is all uncommons doesn't mean that you can't upgrade it with some rares that you might happen to have.
Yeah, of course. It's just a really good place to start.
Exactly. I think some of the most obvious inclusions would be Brazen Borrower, Skycat Sovereign, and Emeria's Call.
Yeah.
And then stuff like Linvala Shield of Seagate is good at protecting against wraths. And if you want to go a bit slower, grindier version, maybe Dream Trawler.
Yeah, I definitely see that. I think I've seen this deck a lot with the cat you had talked about earlier. That's the majority of the time. Yeah, Skycat Sovereign is the one that I see most of the time.
But honestly, playing this deck, there were no cards that I was like, this card's just bad, but it's budget, so I need to play it, and I can't upgrade it.
Yeah.
So I'm not even sure what you're cutting for these cards, but
yeah,
you probably want to make room for Skycat Sovereign, Brazen Borrower.
Yeah.
Emeria's Call takes the place of a land, so that's nice.
Yeah, actually, I don't think I've ever seen a Brazen Borrower in this deck, just because it's trying to put stuff on the ground, or sorry, in the sky, so quickly. And Brazen usually takes 2 turns.
You don't have to. You can just cast it.
That is very true, but it does feel bad in your
yeah. But yeah, it gives you a bit of interaction and more fight against wraths because you can end step it.
Yeah.
All right, what's our medium tier deck?
So the medium tier deck, you may have heard me talk about this before, but I am actually quite a big fan of the blue-white auras deck. It doesn't use that many rare wild cards or rares in general. I would say the one that I've kind of chosen basically has 8 rare wild cards in the main deck, besides the lands, of course, and then about 3 in the sideboard. So it's really not going to be that terrible to kind of jump into. The key cards, basically you're playing Lurrus as a companion. So all of your permanents are going to cost 2 CMC or less, but basically all your cards actually cost 2 CMC or less because you're almost exclusively playing permanents. And Lurrus is really just the backup plan. So Lurrus is there just to be like, it's the oh shit button. Like, things are going south, got to put Lurrus in my hand, and your opponent knows things are going south.
I know, whenever I'm playing against this deck and my opponent just thinks for a while and then puts Lurrus into their hand, I'm like, okay, here's my chance.
Yeah, exactly. So you're in a really bad spot. But this deck basically consists of 3 different types of cards. All right, so you're playing the most important card. First off is just going to be Core Spirit Dancer. And now we have the new inclusion of SRAM Senior Edificer. So these are 2 cards that anytime you play an aura, you draw a card. So specifically, Core Spirit Dancer gets pumped if it has auras on top of it.
Yeah, SRAM is kind of like a bad Core Spirit Dancer.
Yeah, so it's like a backup one because the worst thing that could happen is that you run out of cards.
Yeah.
So SRAM, now that we have him, is useful in kind of mitigating, and sometimes you can throw a SRAM out first. It soaks up a removal spell, and then you're free to play your Core Spirit Dancer, and you feel less bad if one of them dies.
Yeah.
Because you have more ways to draw cards.
Yeah, before Kaladesh, this deck was still pretty good, but it depended on whether or not they drew Core Spirit Dancer.
Its consistency was off. I was definitely playing Hushbringers instead of SRAM because it would turn off the Muxus decks, the Goblin ones.
Right.
But that's fallen away from the meta a little bit. So now we're dealing with a bunch of different things, and Hushbringers tend to just be like fairly useless. So I threw them in the sideboard, and having just extra draw spells are basically great.
Yeah, giving you another 4 copies of your best card kind of gives the deck a shot in the arm.
Basically, yeah. So for this one, I only had 3 of SRAM because I was playing with it with just 3, and it was working out really well.
It is legendary, right?
Yeah, it's legendary, so you can only have 1 of them. So I don't like having you know, you never want to have two in your opening hand. It kind of sucks unless you just hope one of them dies, and you never want to play a card hoping that it dies. So
Spirit Dancer doesn't have that problem.
exactly. So, but if you have both of them, it's really great. You just draw 2 cards per aura, and almost a ton of your auras cost 1 mana, so that's fantastic. So that kind of goes to the second part of the deck, which is basically auras. So the auras that you're looking for are more card draw, right? So a lot of the ones you want are Curious Obsession, Staggering Insight, and then the big Hail Mary of all of them is All That Glitters.
Yeah, that card just really good in this deck.
Yeah. So basically, this deck draws a ton of cards, a ton of cards. If you want an aggro deck that draws just your entire deck, not that much, but a lot. This is the one. Like if you play it right, and you'll slowly learn how to protect things. It is the thing that will you'll just draw so much stuff you won't even know what to play next. Like your options just blow up.
Yeah, I know. I'd play against this as Sultai mid-range, and I'd be like, man, they're drawing a lot of cards. I'm jealous over here.
So many. It's fantastic. Because then if you have a core Spirit Dancer and SRAM out, you play Curious Obsession, you draw 2 cards, you find another Curious Obsession, you draw 2 more cards, you attack with it, you draw 2 more cards off of Curious Obsession, you play more stuff on top of it. It just gets insane really
gets
quickly.
out of hand very, very fast.
Yeah. And you're just, one-shotting people with All That Glitters.
Right.
So it's very fun. But the last most important piece, that if you're playing this deck or playing against this deck, because you might just be listening to this thinking, what are decks that were going to be played against me? The protection package. So core Spirit Dancer is, we've kind of said this before, like your queen, right? So you are protecting your queen. It's like chess.
Yeah.
Don't let the queen die. She's the most important piece that you have. So we are using Selfless Savior, the dog that sacrifices itself to make something indestructible. Alseid of Lice Bounty, which gives something protection, and then Karamecha's Blessing, which only important. So it gives target creature +2/+2, but if it's enchanted or an enchantment creature, it gets indestructible and hexproof.
Okay.
So a lot of the time, if you're playing against this deck, you need to kill the core Spirit Dancer while the aura is on the stack, about to hit her.
Right.
Because then Karamecha's Blessing won't do enough most of the time.
Yep.
But it's also important to know, like, if you want to play a Spirit Dancer and then immediately, like a 1-drop, like
protection. So either the dog or the...
Either like turn 1 dog and then play core Spirit Dancer the next turn,
right.
Or depending on what deck you're playing against, I'd want to make sure I get an aura on top of it, so I can hold up Karamecha's Blessing for any sort of thing they're going to try to do. But it's fairly straightforward. But the more you kind of play it, the more you start to
It's actually
realize...
a pretty difficult deck to play, I think. It seems straightforward, and then when you actually have a hand, because everything costs 1 and 2 mana, you have so many options on every turn that you're like, man. And then you sit at the end of a match, you're like, I think a better player than me would have won that.
Do remember that if you get a creature protection, it will lose the auras of that color.
Right. And so giving it pro blue, not always all upside.
Is not really what you want. So that's why I've put more dogs in the deck, because I kind of like the dog better, and it doesn't cost any mana to use that ability.
I mean, the real hero is Karamecha's Blessing. Right?
Oh, absolutely. Especially if you have a couple in your hand, because it'll really throw people off.
Yeah. Sometimes I've like Thoughtseed someone, and they just have 3 of them. I'm like,
and you're like,
I can't win this game.
What am I going to do? Yeah.
I'll take 1, but I don't know how I'm going to fight through the other 2.
This is still something that I'm continuing to have problems with. It still pumps your creature.
Yeah.
Don't forget,
if you're +2/+2.
If you're swinging for lethal, you're like, I'm 2 damage short, and you have one in your hand, play it and win right there.
That's the funny thing where you're like, no, I have to save this card to protect it.
And I've done that so many times.
Yeah.
Now, most of the time, you're going to win that game anyway.
Right.
But just win faster.
Yeah, my impression of I've played against this deck a couple of times since Kaladesh came out, and this was always one of the better best of 1 decks, but it didn't see that much play in best of 3. I really think the addition of SRAM just makes this deck so much more consistent that my initial interpretation is that this is a tier 1 deck now.
I did not play it in best of 3 because I thought it was a better best of 1 deck.
Yeah.
But since I got SRAM this weekend, I was playing best of 3 and it was wonderful.
Yeah.
Like you can side in if you don't want something, I put some Ginger Brutes in there because either they soak up a removal spell or having a Ginger Brute with a Curious Obsession when you don't have a SRAM or a Core Spear Dancer is a great way to draw cards. But you like pull him out, and you don't see a mirror match as often as you used to.
Right.
Which a lot of the sideboard I had kind of specifically for mirror matches. But having Spell Pierces, almost specifically for board wipes, but Settle the Wreckage.
Yeah.
People always want to get you with Settle the Wreckage because that means that you can't use Luris to bring back your Core Spirit Dancer later because it gets exiled. So having Spell Pierces for the Settle the Wreckage, when they just like turn 4 pass, you're like, well.
On another note, I kind of expect Seal Away to be played more.
I think that the sideboard could use a Sealed Away probably.
But you should be careful if your opponent's having Seal Away.
Yeah.
Like, it's basically going to demand a Karametra's Blessing or an Alseid out of you. And you don't really want to give it pro-white. So.
Yeah, so that becomes rough. So you really need Karametra's Blessing in that situation. So if you know you're playing
or just don't attack.
Yeah.
Because it requires your creature to be tapped.
Yeah, and just remember, there are certain situations where if you don't attack, you will lose Curious Obsession, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Autumn taught me that.
Yes, Autumn definitely taught me that if you see a situation where you're like, well, if I don't attack, I lose Curious Obsession. Even if it's like 3.
Plenty more where that
we're also playing Luris, so just go that route, play Luris and play it again later. So it's gone but not forgotten.
Yeah, this deck seems very, very good to me. The first time I ran into it, I thought it was just kind of a meme deck, but it's kicked my ass so many times. And then now, since it's gotten SRAM, like the way I used to beat this deck is just make sure you're dealing with the Core Spirit Dancers. Now there's so many. There's 7 in your deck. 7 copies of this effect.
Exactly.
You can only Thoughtseize away so many of them.
So especially if you just, on the turn you're going to go big or go home, you're going to play... you have like 3 All That Glitters in your hand. You play the first one, they're like, okay, I can deal with that. You play the second one, they're like, oh. And then you play the third one, they're like, scoop.
Right. And again, essentially, other than lands, you can build this deck with like 8 rare wild cards. You need the Spirit Dancers, 3 copies of SRAM, and a Luris.
Yeah.
There you go. Off to the
races. That works pretty well. If you want to, I definitely will experiment to play more SRAMs, but I think it's definitely functional without it. And
3 seems right to me. Just because, again, they're legendary. So you don't really want to draw the 2 SRAM hand. Yeah. You want to draw 1 Spirit Dancer and 1 SRAM or 2 Spirit Dancers.
But what's the expensive deck? What are you talking about?
All right, so the no-budget deck. This is a blast from the past. It was one of the favorites during original Kaladesh. This is Blue-White God Pharaoh's Gift. This deck is awesome. For those who didn't play during Kaladesh, I mean, this was... basically always a competitor. I don't think it was ever kind of the best deck.
Yeah.
But it was always up there. For example, when Seth Manfield won the Pro Tour with Sultai Energy, he beat Pascal Maynard with Blue White Gift in the finals. So this deck, it had some chops, right? It went to the finals of the Pro Tour. And it's just super sweet. And the basic strategy of this deck is to play God Pharaoh's Gift. Now, we've seen some God Pharaoh's Gift decks in Historic before. Usually they were mono black.
Yeah.
The big thing that Kaladesh brings is a card Refurbish.
Yes.
So this is a 4 mana sorcery, I think.
Yeah.
That basically brings an artifact from your graveyard to the battlefield.
Yep.
So now you don't need to play that Gate to the Afterlife card that people are always playing to go get your God Pharaoh's Gift. You play this instead, and you just try to mill yourself as much as possible, get a God Pharaoh's Gift and a bunch of sweet creatures into the graveyard, and bring it back with Refurbish. It's really fun. It's really sweet. I think we have a list that we're going to recommend here that we found on MTGA's Zone, but it was built by Reed Duke.
So it's pretty
good. You know it's not terrible.
Yeah, it can't. It's not something that was just slapped together. So.
Right. And so we'd recommend that as a good starting point. But again, like this was built day one of kind of Kaladesh Remastered. Reed's smart, but he's not, prophetic.
Yeah.
So if you don't have this exact list, feel free to tweak it and tune it to what you do have.
Yeah, and also, I mean, it's good to say with all of them, like take them as they are, and any list that you find, take it, copy it into Arena, and then start moving things around.
Right.
See what you like, change things up. But we have some important components that we would like to talk about.
Yeah. So again, as I mentioned, this deck is sort of a very specific game plan. You fill your card graveyard, step one. The cards that do this are Minister of Inquiries, Strategic Planning, and Champion of Wits. So Minister of Inquiries lets you mill stuff. It's Zach's new crab.
Yeah. No, well, yes, okay.
Zach loves crabs. And then we have Champion of Wits, which lets you discard cards and draw new cards.
I don't love crabs. That makes it sound like I have some sort of STD or something.
I know. That's why I said it.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the idea. Step two, once you have all this stuff in your graveyard, you have sweet creatures, you have God Pharaoh's Gift, you play Refurbish. That's it.
Boom.
Then you bring back Angels of Inventions and Dream Trawlers and and Champion of Wits. Champion of Wits is really good to bring back because it has 4 power when you bring it back.
Yeah, so it's much better
it
than
draws 4 cards and discards 2. And once this deck gets going, it's really hard to stop. And just one thing I wanted to really quickly shout out about God Pharaoh's Gift. Basically, the main graveyard hate in Historic right now is Grafdigger's Cage. And God Pharaoh's Gift does not get shut off by Grafdigger's Cage. Grafdigger's Cage says you can't cast stuff. It says creatures can't enter the battlefield from your graveyard. And God Pharaoh's Gift says exile something from your graveyard and make a token copy.
Yep.
So it gets right around it. In fact, God Pharaoh's Gift's decks often play Grafdigger's Cage to hate on other decks.
So you need to play Tormod's Crypt instead and crack it at the correct moment.
If this deck becomes good, you're going to want to switch your graveyard hate.
Yeah.
Leyline is a pretty good one.
That one, I had that played against me in the Aurus deck, and that was an interesting matchup.
I had this in my sideboard. I was playing Sultai Energy, and I just kind of made a random sideboard that included Leylines. And that's when I ran into this deck, and I was like, oh, buddy, you ran into the wrong guy. 4 Leylines coming in.
Turn 0, boom, Leyline.
You see your opponent just take a long time on turn 1.
Scoop.
It's like they're thinking of scooping.
Yeah. Should I just do this? I would like to point out, this is pretty interesting. There is 1 copy of Waker of Waves.
Yeah, so that's a really cool one. You cycle it away.
Yeah, so Waker of Waves was the 7-mana 7/7 whale from M21. That you can pay 1 in a blue and discard it and look at the top 2 cards and then put 1 in your hand.
Nice touch, Reed.
But I liked that card a lot in Limited, and I think it's pretty interesting here, especially because you put it in the yard, but then you put the other card that you looked at also in the yard.
Yeah. It's a really nice addition. And I think I agree with 1, maybe 2 copies, right? You don't want
you don't want a bunch. But it feels a little bit like not exactly a charter course, but that type of feel where it's almost like an extra faithless looting type of effect, where you would look at cards and then put 1 in your hand, put the rest in the graveyard. This is you look at 2 cards, but 1 card you're putting in the graveyard is a creature, and then the other one is something else. But hopefully, a God Pharaoh's Gift. Yeah. It also shrinks your opponent's board, and they're never going to see it coming.
And 1 card I noticed wasn't in this list that used to be played in the old versions was the White Gear Hulk.
Yeah.
Cataclysmic
Gear Hulk.
So this is kind of like it's an interesting, when it comes into play, everyone chooses 1 of each type, basically, other than lands. 1 artifact, 1 creature, 1 planeswalker.
Yeah.
And that's all you get to keep. So it's a mini Wrath kind of thing.
Yeah.
It used to be pretty powerful to just have a copy of that kind of floating around to wipe your opponent's board.
Yeah.
So it might be worth considering in this here as well.
I would think there are a couple sort of Super Friends decks that float around. Some control decks that are really just trying to stop you from doing anything. They're playing I saw one that was Teferi Hero Dominaria, Narset, and Gideon from Amonkhet, and they're just basically trying to stop you from doing anything while they do their own dirty stuff. So maybe having a Cataclysmic Gearhulk might help.
Yeah.
Get in there, at least make them choose their favorite one.
Yeah, exactly. Planeswalk, yeah.
Which
Super
you
Friends
don't
as well.
often get to force people to sacrifice Planeswalkers. So.
Exactly, yeah. And yeah, one thing I would do with this list, I'm sure you can guess, but I'd find my least favorite card and cut it for a land because there's only 24 lands here.
24 seems fine to me, but Jeff would prefer not to have that.
Yeah. I actually kind of want 26, but 2 cuts might be aggressive.
Interesting. I mean, like my Auras deck, it runs 21 lands, but the actually I took your advice because the list I found ran 20.
There
I
we
cut
go.
one, added a land, boom, and now I only sometimes have land problems where I have too many, which is much better than having not enough.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep. But that those are kind of the decks that we were pointing out for today.
Yeah, all 3 I think are competitive.
Yeah.
And pretty fun to play. And
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I haven't been able to play against all of them, but I haven't been able to play all of them, but I've played against all of them. Mm-hmm. And they all look pretty sweet. Like even this like Flyers deck, like I don't have one, and I could easily just throw that together with cards I have, and that seems pretty fun. Just especially. Especially the times when I want to draft and I shouldn't draft.
Right.
I should just put that deck together and actually play that instead. When it's
talking about when he's had a few too many.
Yeah, when I'm talking about when it's like 1:30 in the morning, and you're like, I just want a few more games.
Yeah.
But I don't need to throw my gems away. I should do that.
Yeah. Just throw your rank away. That's cool.
The rank is not as important as
You can't
gems.
go that low on
You
it.
cannot go that low. But yeah, those are the decks that we have picked.
And the last cool thing I want to say is like this kind of gives you a nice progression. Let's say you have only enough to get the rares.
Yeah.
Or sorry, the lands. That's all the wild cards. Start with this blue-white Flyers deck. Mm-hmm. And then you could build up towards auras or gift. Either way. Auras is going to be pretty fast.
Yeah.
And then you actually have 3 blue-white decks that are all like very different play styles as well. You have like a tempo deck, then you have this kind of protect the queen sort of we call it boggles style deck, and then you have like a reanimator deck.
Yeah. So would you say that these decks would go wide, go tall, and mill it all?
I would say exactly that. Took the words right out of my mouth.
Yes, we did it. Full circle, we got there.
Yeah.
But we would like to know from you, is this a segment that you are interested in? We would love to do more of these things. I think they're very important or could be very useful.
Right.
So if you find them useful, please hit us up on Instagram and Twitter at Arena Regulars.
Yeah, and you might find us playing one of these decks on Arena. Our username is Arena Regulars Podcast.
Yeah, hit us with a nice or counter our spell and say, oops.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Don't do that. It's very mean.
That's mean.
Yeah.
But, you could give us a sticker.
Yeah, love stickers. Stickers are honestly the best thing that has ever happened to Arena.
Yeah.
Not even Kaladesh Remastered.
No, not even coming to Apple, right?
No, not even coming to Apple. Like, I would buy a PC just to play stickers. Yeah. But with that, I would also like to say thank you very much to our one listener.
You know who you are, and you're the best.
Yeah, we like you. And with that, good night. All right, that's fine.